Alright, so today we're doing part 13 of building the homemade lathe. So when I first built this lathe, I used these bearings knowing that at the time I eventually will have to replace these bearings with something better. I used these anyway just because they were the cheapest option at the time and they were the only thing I had to use. I got these at the scrapyard for I believe like $12 for this whole 2-inch axle plus 3 of these bearings, 2 of them that I used, and that was the cheapest option at the time, so that's why I did it. So again, I knew when I installed these bearings that I would eventually have to replace them. Honestly, they've lasted a lot longer than I thought they would. I mean, it does have some play in the chuck, up and down and back and forth, but it's not as bad as I originally thought it was going to be. I mean, I thought they were gonna get super sloppy like within a couple months, but no, they lasted a good year. So, but I think it's time to replace it, and I have everything I need to replace these, so let's just do it. Now this is hopefully everything I need to replace the spindle of the headstock. This is obviously the new spindle. This was originally 2-inch thick steel round bar that I got from the scrapyard. I turned it down to 1 3/4 diameter, and I believe it's like 17 inches long, so this was ridiculously long to turn this on the lathe. I also welded this face plate, or this mounting plate, to the spindle to eventually mount the chuck to it. Now the bearings I'm actually using wheel bearings that I got from Northern Tool. These were ridiculously cheap, and I believe it's 1 3/4 inner diameter by 3 1/4 outer diameter. So these are plenty big enough, and I'm hoping they're going to be plenty strong enough. Now probably the hardest pieces to make were these right here. These are the bearing housings I had to make out of 1-inch thick steel plate. Now I had to cut these out with my angle grinder. That was not fun. I had to use like 7 cutoff discs just to cut these out. Like a couple hours of grinding to clean them up and get them into the shape that they're in right now. And then like several hours of turning on the lathe to turn this giant center hole in the middle of them to allow this to fit in there. So I'm hoping everything's going to work out, and the first thing we need to do is we need to disassemble the old headstock, take everything off, clean everything up, and then get it ready to install all these new pieces. So I was cleaning up the lathe chuck a little bit, and you know, just making it nice and shiny. Getting rid of some of the. There's just a lot of metal shavings around here, in between, stuck in the teeth. You know, from a year of turning stuff, and I wanted to take a look inside and see if there's anything in here that's, you know, maybe damaged. You know, while I'm in here, I might as well take a look at it, and I'm glad I did, because look at all the metal shavings inside of this. Look at this. Look at all those metal shavings that are just, you know, gummed up on here. Just like, man, I'm glad I took this apart, because I definitely need to clean this up, get rid of all these metal shavings, because this is really bad. So yeah, over time, I always felt like it was getting gummed up, but I didn't know it was getting this bad. So I'm definitely going to take this whole thing apart, clean every single little thing out, clean all the metal shavings out, and pack it full of grease, not full of grease, but just put more grease in here, and you know, I just need to clean this out, because this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad. Alright, so after getting the lathe chuck mounted, I had to figure out a way to clamp the center part of the bearings together, because the bearings I'm using, you really have to clamp them together to really get all the play out of the bearings. So I came up with an idea of taking the hub that mounts the pulley onto the spindle and drilling 4 holes, these holes right here, and putting these 4 20 or quarter 20 screws, and what they do is they just push the middle piece of the bearings together, the center piece, whatever you call them, and they just clamp them together and just squeeze everything together. Now, it works great. Unfortunately, last night I didn't take into consideration how weak aluminum is, and these 4 screws right here, which clamp the hub onto the spindle, I tightened them down way too much, and it cracked this hub in 4 spots. You can see a big crack right there, small one right here, another big one right here, and another small one. So this hub's broken, it's cracked in 4 spots, we just need to replace it. So I made this hub. This is a new hub. This is basically just an identical one. This one has 12 holes that I drilled and tapped. This one has 16. So basically it just has 4 more screws clamping it down onto the spindle. It has these right here and these right here, which clamp it down. These holes right here are for mounting the pulley, and these holes right here are for pushing the whole bearing assembly together. So all we really need to do is take off the old pulley, or take off the old hub and pulley, and install the new one. Yeah, here's the old one. You can see it's cracked pretty badly. I mean, it's cracked all the way through. If this camera would focus. Come on. Focus, you. There you go. And you can tell it cracked where I drilled these holes. So, yeah, that's kind of my bad. I kind of didn't really take into consideration how weak just crappy aluminum is. Here's the new one. Hoping this one's not going to be... Hopefully this one's going to be a lot stronger. Hopefully this one's not going to break. All I'm going to do is just not tighten it as much as I did last time. So, and just hope that it's not going to break. So, anyway, let's put the new one on. Alright, so we finally have everything installed. We have the chuck installed. The hub of that holds the pulley on here is now perfect. It's not cracked anymore, and it's now working perfect. Everything is working perfectly. Now I've been taking the last day and a half to 2 days to line everything up, get rid of all the run out in the chuck, and make sure this lines up perfectly with the tailstock. And I think I've gotten it, you know, almost perfect. Let me show you the accuracy we now have with the chuck. Let me put that on there. Let me zoom in so you guys can see what I'm doing. Give me a second here. I think that's right there. So it's not perfect, but let me put it to 0. So it's not perfect. There we go. So it's not perfect. It does move back and forth a tiny little bit, but I think that's close enough. I think it's because, you know, it has a little bit of rough surface on this chuck. This chuck is 1.5 years old. It's been kind of abused, so I think that is as close as I'm going to get it. Let me turn it on and show you. It kind of dances a little bit and goes a little nuts when I turn it on, but I think that's normal. That's as close as I'm gonna get it, so let's turn something and see how much better finish we can get with the new bearings. Alright, so we're just gonna be turning just a random chunk of round stock that I have. Let's put that in there. Let me zoom in a bit and set the focus. Give me a second. Wrong way. Let's say right there. Okay, let's turn this and see what it looks like. Alright, so here it is at normal speed now that I cleaned it all up. Little bit of ringing with that. That's unfortunate. So look at that. Look at that. Can you see it? Kinda. That is a whole lot better finish than what it used to be. Look at that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. When I'm doing a face cut, it doesn't have any ring to it. It sounds perfect. I hope you can hear that in the video. It just sounds like a normal lathe. When I'm doing I guess not a surface cut, but when I'm cutting this way, it does have a ring to it, unfortunately. I think that's just because this is made out of all steel. This is a steel lathe. Somebody, I forgot what video it was and I forgot who said it, but somebody said in one of the videos of my homemade lathe that the reason lathes are made out of cast steel or cast iron is because cast iron doesn't have a ring to it. There's no vibration doesn't carry through cast iron or cast steel. So with this, it's all cast, or it's all steel. Vibration unfortunately does carry through this, so with when I'm turning some spots, it does ring and it does produce a little, you know, off of a finish, but for what it is, this is a homemade lathe, and I'm pretty happy with that result right there. And now I've been trying to figure out for the longest time how to add gearing to this lathe. I've been trying to figure out how to add gears so I can adjust the speed of the chuck, and a lot of you have said that I should just add a variable speed motor, but the motor that I need would be like, you know, a couple $100, and then the speed controller would be a couple $100. I've looked into the whole dimmer switch thing. I don't think it would work for the kind of power that I would need out of this. It would just make it to where the motor wouldn't have as much torque at low end, so it wouldn't have that much power. I don't think it would work. And I'm also trying to figure out how to improve the automatic feed that I added in the last video of this lathe. I didn't set up right now the automatic feed for this right now. I'm trying to figure out how to make it so it can go back and forth at will. I'm trying to figure out how I can maybe add a windshield wiper motor, so therefore I can have like a little toggle switch so I can make it go back and forth, so it's semi-automatic. So I'm hoping to do a couple more videos of this lathe in the future, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. The bearings are awesome. It's a whole lot more quiet than the old bearings were, and I'm really happy with the results. So yeah, I gotta end the video here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, and have a nice day.